Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session of a Microsoft special presentation titled Responsible AI. I'm Dr. Ron Johnson, co-editor of the International Journal of Open Educational Resources, and will be the chair of this session. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone to please mute your microphones to avoid any background noise. If you have questions, you can either put them into the Q&A or into the chat, and I will make sure that those are addressed at the end of the presentation. Again, this presentation is a Microsoft special presentation titled Responsible AI, and I am honored to introduce our presenter, Vinita Grover. Vinita.
Thanks, Ron. I appreciate the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be tuning in from today. As Ron mentioned, my name is Vinita Grover. I am Principal Corporate Counsel at Microsoft within Microsoft's Corporate Legal and External Affairs Group. I am here today to provide sort of a special presentation on Microsoft's commitment to responsible AI. And just talk about, Microsoft's journey with respect to AI and just the deployment and development of ethical and responsible AI technologies. So I want to start off by just saying, we are in a momentous time in history, really with the kind of technologies that are being developed. And obviously, my presentation today has a lens towards the technologies that are being developed by Microsoft specifically. So a lot of my talking points today are going to be Microsoft specific. I know we've heard from a lot of presenters today about AI generally. And really over the last day and a half of this conference, we've heard a lot about AI technologies, their development, their deployment, and various approaches to AI, specifically within the education space. I was just chatting with Ron prior to hopping on here to talk to all of you about, how sort of my perception of the future and the opportunity that we have in front of us. And really, I think the way that I think about the opportunity that lies ahead is very much in the same vein as Microsoft as a company thinks about the opportunity that lies ahead. We're optimistic about what AI technologies can do for society, for industries, for individuals, because the technology has a potential to bring people together. Again, Ron and I were just talking about, the pandemic and how we used all of this wonderful collaboration technology like Microsoft Teams and Zoom and WebEx to bring people together in a time where we really couldn't be together. And I think the promise of AI is similar. It is to bring people together, but in a responsible and ethical way. I want to kick off, before I move to the next slide, I want to sort of kick off this presentation with a short video of our latest technology called Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is an artificial intelligence developed technology that is part of our portfolio, part of our M365 stack, which many of you are probably familiar with in your day-to-day working lives. It is the Outlook, it is the Word, it is the Excel, it is all the collaboration tools and all of the working tools that we use in our day-to-day professional lives. And really, Copilot is exactly that. It is a Copilot that sort of helps create efficiencies within tasks for each of these different, types of tools, be it within Word or be it within Outlook. It has an incredible way to sort of increase efficiencies in our day-to-day tasks. So I'm going to run the video and then we can chat a little bit about, just ways that, I use it and people at Microsoft and beyond generally use Copilot. It is based on large language models. And so I think I always just really enjoy watching this video to see the baseline sort of potential of the technology.
Benita, we're not getting any sound through here, and one of the participants said that perhaps you can reshare your screen and click optimize for video and sound. Would you be able to possibly try that?
I'm sorry, Ron, did you have something to say while we were?
Yeah, we didn't hear that. There was no
Oh, I'm so
audio.
sorry.
No, there was no audio coming through, and one of the participants said perhaps you can reshare your screen and click optimize for video and sound. Would you,
Okay.
is that something you could do?
Well, in the interest of time, maybe let's just keep moving. Hopefully, just
Sure.
watching the video and seeing the visuals there, or many of you were able to pick up on some of the key sort of points of the video.
Good.
Maybe we'll try at the end to see if we have time. I can try to run it again, but I apologize for the snafu there. I thought when we did our trial run that it seemed to work fine, but apologies.
And you'll be sharing the slide deck so people can view it at their own leisure as well. So, okay.
Yes. Thanks, Ron. Okay, so again, apologies that the video did not play as expected, but I think if you caught some of the visuals there, you could see just how powerful the technology is. I mean, really just, I can give an example from my own personal use of Copilot in a work setting. Many of us in the legal department were away last week for our fiscal start meetings, and so as you can imagine, a week of being away, I had many emails to catch up on. And so one of the first things that I did when I came back into the office was use Copilot within Outlook to, and you sort of get better at this each time that you use Copilot, but you prompt Copilot to sort of summarize all of your email activity, highlight any specific action items, point out urgency in terms of, any timelines or dates that are provided in emails from, I had clients obviously that had matters that needed to be addressed within a certain time period. And so you can have Copilot highlight all of that. And it's really an incredible tool to just sort of, again, drive efficiencies and just help with basic management of your inbox after you've been away for a week. And so I thought that was an incredible way for me to come back and just sort of quickly get a quick summary of, all the things that I missed over a week of being away at work. Okay, so now back to sort of the responsible AI conversation, which is why we're here today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Microsoft's AI trust journey. And I think the starting point of that conversation really is this core tenet that Microsoft runs on trust. It is the sort of baseline principle that the company is founded on. It is the baseline consideration for anything and everything that we do. And our responsible AI journey actually is not something new to us as a company. It is something that is a path we started on several years ago. So back in 2017, I think, is when we first really started thinking about responsible AI and our approach to responsible AI. One of the first things that we did as a company was to create this Office of Responsible AI that now sits in our corporate, external, and legal affairs team. So within the team that I'm on, the Office of Responsible AI is a robust team that sort of has a lens on all the different aspects of the company, be it marketing or engineering or the sales side, right? And it really thinks about all of the sort of considerations that go into the development and deployment of these technologies within our global customer base. One of the other things that we've, early on that we wanted to be involved in was our approach to regulation. And being that we are a global company, that approach to regulation has also got to be on a global scale. And so we are very much interested in having those conversations with regulators around the world and making sure that we have not just a voice as part of any regulatory considerations that are being developed and that are being solidified in different global markets, but we also want to make sure that we are a part of the conversation, that we have input there, that we are actively speaking about our own experience vis-a-vis approach to regulation around the world. And so as we've been having these conversations, we've been developing our products with things like content filtering. So if you think about AI technologies, and like a core concern is obviously what type of content is being generated. A lot of our technologies, our AI technologies specifically, have content filtering built into it to prevent abuse and to prevent abusive content from being generated. And then sort of going, several clicks down into that is specific contractual terms within our licensing terms that speak to our responsible use and development of AI. Now, one of the things that is critical to meeting the AI moment is thinking through how the technology is going to be used on a global scale. And so making sure that the technology is built and used responsibly and ethically is our topmost sort of consideration. And then making sure that the technology advances international competitiveness and national security, that it serves society in a broad and not narrow way. We obviously understand that the potential here is significant, but we also understand that there are obvious concerns, as many presenters have shared over the last day and a half. There are many concerns, especially in the education space, around the responsible and ethical use of AI. And I think that is something that we as a company are acutely aware of, not just in the education space, but in every market that we serve. Obviously, because this discussion today here is more specific towards education and AI within the future of education, I'm going to focus on that. But that is a sort of core narrative that we are acutely aware of, and that is something that we are constantly thinking about when we think about the responsible and ethical development of these technologies. So when we began our responsible AI journey, and when we created our Office of Responsible AI, we came up with 6 principles that I have up on the screen here, and they're relatively self-explanatory, right? Fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. These are the sort of core fundamental principles that we are thinking through whenever we have any sort of AI technology related issue or matter that we are working on as a company. So in terms of, when we are in the nascent stages of thinking about developing a technology, these sort of core baseline principles come into play where we think about, is the technology fair? Is it going to be reliable and safe for the audience that it's geared towards? So for instance, in the education space, there are certain technologies where we've gone through the sort of the principles and the related sort of standards for those principles, which I'll get into in the next slide. And we've determined that maybe this technology is currently unsafe for an under 18 population because there aren't the protective guardrails in place to protect that sort of very sensitive population from these technologies. And so we've very intentionally not entered into that space of providing the technology and allowing an under 18 population to use it. Now, obviously, we're constantly developing our technology and making it better. So our hope is that one day that we can put in the appropriate guardrails to allow the technology to be deployed to everyone, including an under 18 population. But just to give you an example of sort of the core review process that goes into play when we think about our approach to responsible AI. So again, we think about whether the product has the appropriate privacy and security protocols and processes in place. And when we think about privacy and security, obviously that is not just thinking about, the privacy and security regulatory framework within the US. That is thinking about privacy in Europe. That is thinking about GDPR. That is thinking about, do we meet privacy and security standards in a country like Brazil or in Latin America? And so there's a very vast regulatory landscape that gets considered when reviewing this. So it's a very intense process. Inclusiveness is another big one for us. We want to make sure that the technology is as inclusive as possible, that we have, accessibility measures built into the way we think about technology, and that finally the technology is transparent and accountable. So double clicking a little bit on the respective standards that and the principles that I just mentioned, those 6 principles that we've adopted, they really guide our AI work here within Microsoft. And we take those 6 principles and then we sort of break them down further and think about, what are the goals that we want to achieve for each sort of principle that we've laid out here. And again, that is with every sort of AI technology consideration that we're thinking through from development to deployment. So sort of further building on the principles and then thinking about, how the principles translate into our customer base, our global customer base. What are the things that we as a company that really has been sort of at the forefront of thinking about AI, thinking about the responsible and ethical development and deployment of AI, what are sort of things that we can do to help customers along their journey? And sort of came up with 3 broad customer commitments here. The first one here is sharing our learnings about developing and deploying AI responsibly. So as I've mentioned during this presentation, we have been on this journey for several years now. And so we think it's incumbent upon us to share the learnings that we've learned over the last several years with our customers so that they can sort of use that information to inform their own development and deployment of AI tools within their organizations. The second is creating an AI assurance program. So the AI assurance program is really to help ensure that AI applications are being deployed and developed in an ethical manner within a customer's environment, and then supporting customers as they implement their own AI systems responsibly. So I really think of all 3 customer commitments hand in hand. They really work hand in hand to sort of enhance the customer's experience with AI technologies and help them deploy them in an ethical and responsible manner. Okay, Back in September of last year, so September 2023, Microsoft announced our Copilot copyright commitment for customers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this particular slide because you'll see that this evolved pretty quickly to move to what we now call our customer copyright commitment. And the reason that we went from a Copilot copyright commitment to a customer copyright commitment was because and I'll double click on exactly what the commitment is in a couple of slides here now. But the reason that we moved so quickly was because we received a lot of feedback from our customer base that, this was something that they wanted to see for all of our AI technologies and not just our Copilot technology. And I think that's incredible to mention because we made such a huge pivot in terms of the actual commitment within a very short period. So before I get into the commitment, why is Microsoft offering this benefit? So the commitment itself is, again, like a double click on the contractual terms that that really solidify our belief that responsible and ethical AI is sort of at the forefront of all of our decision making. As a company, we believe in standing behind our customers when they use our products and in recognizing the unique challenges and opportunities that we have with AI. We're sensitive, obviously, to the concerns of customers and authors, and we want to make sure we're doing our part in terms of a shared responsibility model. And then finally, we're building important guardrails and safety mechanisms into our copilots, and we're making sure that we offer tools that support use of these services. So the customer copyright commitment itself. So what is it? It is essentially, it's an extension of our existing IP and indemnity support of our AI technologies and other generative AI services. What it says is that if a third party sues a commercial customer for copyright infringement for using these tools, for the output generated by the service, Microsoft will defend the customer and pay the amount of any adverse judgment or settlements that result from the lawsuit. This is sort of a novel concept in the AI space, but not a novel concept to Microsoft because, as you'll see on this slide, it's really an extension of the IP protections that we were already offering for our products, for our non-generative AI technologies. And so really, this is just a sort of further commitment from the company to ensure that our customers that are using these technologies really feel protected with the same IP and defense commitments that we've always offered under our sort of traditional stack of products. And you'll see here, so the customer copyright commitment applies to paid versions of our Copilot services, of our other generative AI technologies. And this is just sort of a quick slide that shows all the different services that the CCC applies to. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I think we're running up against the clock here because I know we wanted to leave some time for Q&A. But I do plan on sharing these slides. So for anyone that sort of just wants to read the lovely legalese here that is incorporated into our licensing terms, you can feel free to knock yourself out. I won't read the slide because I know that tends to be pretty dry, but this is our customer copyright commitment in all its glory. It's incorporated into our product terms, and it's part and parcel of our licensing terms that are offered to anyone that is purchasing our generative AI technologies. Okay, and I think we went over this. So again, I'm not going to repeat myself just in the interest of time, but this is sort of further expanding on our commitment under the customer copyright commitment. Just noting again that, Microsoft is taking on a defense obligation against third-party IP claims for the content that is generated specifically by AI technologies that are listed here. So how does the customer copyright commitment extend Microsoft's existing defense commitments? So it really is just, again, an extension of our existing IP commitments, so that customers that are using this technology can avail of this benefit, just like they do for any of our other technologies. And I want to spend a little bit of time on this slide because this is really, it shows that the defense obligation that is formed under the customer copyright commitment is a shared responsibility model with our customers. And what that really means is that, Microsoft is offering this defense obligation under the customer copyright commitment, but we also have some baseline expectations from our customers when it comes with their use of these technologies. So we want to make sure customers are using them in a compliant way, that they are making sure that they have things like content filtering that we've spent so much time including and developing in our technologies, that those tools are being used. So if a customer for example, decides to turn off content filtering on a particular service, then, that does not go towards this shared responsibility model. So that is something that, is a baseline expectation of customers' use of these technologies. Okay, and I think we have a few minutes, Ron, for Q&A, if we have any questions in the chat.
We do. Thank you, Venitra, for so much to consider and for such an interesting presentation. If I may, I'd like to start by asking you perhaps a related question to what you've been going over, and that is, how has your job and, in extension, the overall strategy of Microsoft changed since the new integration with OpenAI?
That is a great question. I will try my best to answer it in the very limited time that we've had. So I think I'll speak for myself first before I speak on a more broader basis. My experience has changed significantly in the last year, I would say, since these technologies have been developed and they've been released internally, obviously, for our use. I think my colleagues would agree, but we've just seen such an increase in efficiency from the use of these technologies internally. I mentioned the example of the Outlook and just being away for a week. That was just a very small example. But in my day-to-day of reviewing licensing terms and just having a lot of customer conversations, it's been incredibly helpful to compare documents. It's been very, previously where you would have to look through significant red lines and compare them manually. You can now have these generative AI technologies, Copilot specifically, provide a summary of what the changes are so that you can get a quick overview of what those changes are. Now, that doesn't, AI technology, I don't think anyone here at Microsoft, including myself, think that AI technologies can replace the human lens. I think, there's obviously great benefits from using these technologies, like, the very high level summaries, but there still needs to be a human lens, because at the end of the day, technology cannot replace the human experience, and it cannot replace the human element.
Okay, that's great. So Microsoft is not planning for the singularity within the next 5 years or so.
I don't believe so. Not that I'm aware of.
We have some really good questions, and I'll start with Anne. And Anne wants to know, are there any differences using Copilot on the web versus the app version?
Oh, that's a great question. There should not be any differences in using Copilot on the web or the app. I certainly have not had a significantly different experience using one versus the other. I do think that, like with all technologies that are trained by large language models, you may get a different output depending on, like, it might be the same question, but you might get a different output depending on what the sort of base sort of level data sets are that are being pulled from to generate certain outputs. So at any given time, you might ask the question in a different way and you might get different outputs, but I don't think that is a web versus app difference.
Okay, we have another question, whether or not Microsoft offers specific training programs for users in Copilot.
Yes, we do. And I think that is something that that our sales teams have set up within for our global customer base. And we have teams that are dedicated to helping customers with their Copilot experiences and just sort of getting the training that they need to ramp up on those prompting skills.
Yeah, we had somebody just share a link in the chat for the Microsoft training program. So thanks for doing
Great.
that,
Great.
Mackenzie. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything else. The major question was about the differences in Copilot. I know our university, American Public University System, has been piloting Copilot, and students and faculty are eligible and using it. And I've been on vacation the past month, so I haven't had a chance to play around with it yet. For me, I'm a Mac user. I've been using Apple for 20 years. Is
I won't hold
Copilot
that against
friendly?
you.
Is Copilot friendly with Apple products? I know Teams works great in Apple now, so I was just wondering if that's the case.
Yeah, I believe that it is, but I mean, I don't know if Mackenzie's in the chat or it's a more technical question. So I would lean on one of my other more technically inclined colleagues to answer that question, but I believe it should work in a Mac environment.
One of my faculty buddies who works with me, he just said it works great. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks. Yeah. Where do you see Microsoft and AI in the next year? If we were meeting with you a year from now, where do you see AI and Microsoft, regulatory issues, government, personal use? Are there areas that you know about and can't tell us, or things that you are hoping to see between now and a year from now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Ron. So I think specifically in the education space, I think there's a lot of, just like I said in my entire presentation, even outside of the education space, there's so much opportunity, but, we also have to tread a little bit carefully because, deploying this technology in a responsible and ethical way, especially for sensitive populations, which children tend to be, under 18, especially tend to be sensitive populations where early exposure to content that is generated by these technologies that is maybe not vetted carefully enough or just not right for younger minds is I think something that is of utmost concern for us here. And so, I personally would like to, I'm excited about where the Microsoft sort of journey in this space will lead us in the coming year to years. I'm very optimistic that we'll get there. I'm not sure that we're quite there yet. I think we've made incredible progress, especially in the higher education space. But I think, when we think about the K through 12 sort of population, I think there's work to be done there. And I'm excited to see sort of where we go in that space.
Well, I'm very optimistic because I know there's people like you that are guiding the discussion and are working hard. And what you're doing is really benefiting all of us here as users and in society. So just taking one more look for questions. I don't see anything. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for being here with us today, and you really made a difference. This is one of the best sessions I've been part of, and I really enjoyed learning from you. We have a keynote in 10 minutes. I know probably a lot of people are going to want to jump off this call, so I'm going to give everybody about 10 minutes to do that, and the next session begins at 12:15. So again, Venetra, thank you so much. This was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And who knows, maybe we'll see you again next year if we do this again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful to be able to meet with you all and do this presentation. I hope everyone received some sort of benefit from this conversation today. And I would love to meet everyone again next year. So thank you. Thank you again.
Good. Okay. See you.